welcome to a new week on Tesla Shorts Time, episode 547. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Today is July 20th, 2026. Here's what's kicking off the week in Tesla land. Tesla's first Semi Megacharger station in California opens the door to commercial long-haul electric trucking economics. The station marks the first dedicated public charging point for the Semi after earlier fleet-only deployments. It supplies the high-power needs on commercial routes and gives early operators the first chance to gather real-world TCO data on charging times and corridor uptime. Last covered on July 19th, the Semi program now moves the open question of corridor coverage one step forward with visible public infrastructure. Additional sites are expected next to close gaps on long-haul corridors. The same power delivery limits that shape semi-charging also apply to stationary storage, where Tesla is now expanding reach through partners. Tesla and Esyasoft are collaborating to deploy Megapack systems globally through the partners' regional networks. The arrangement targets markets beyond direct utility contracts and lets local teams handle installation and grid integration. It aligns with scaled production at Giga Nevada and Texas without adding direct sales headcount. Last covered on July 19th, the energy program now gains a channel for faster geographic coverage. Initial project announcements will show how the collaboration converts backlog into installed capacity. While energy scales through partners, the Berlin plant shows how existing factories can improve margins even before volumes recover. The Berlin Gigafactory posted higher earnings even though vehicle output declined. Improved vehicle mix and cost controls offset the volume drop and lifted the plant's contribution to overall margins. The result comes ahead of broader European demand signals expected in Q2 results. Observers will watch whether the profit lift holds once production volumes recover. The outcome demonstrates that margin gains can precede volume recovery when mix and operating discipline improve first. The same discipline around scaling timelines appears in the humanoid program, where visible output is still zero. No Optimus units have entered production volume ahead of the earnings call. Dedicated factory construction at Giga Texas continues, yet visible output remains at the prototype stage. Last covered on July 18th, the program still sits at the pre-volume phase. The 2027 target stays the next concrete checkpoint. Investors will listen for any updated timeline on when hundreds of units per week become feasible. Power constraints surface again when comparing vehicle operating costs. Real-world electricity versus diesel costs for equivalent monthly mileage show a wide spread favoring the Cybertruck. The comparison uses typical U.S. residential rates and fleet diesel prices. Owners will track whether home solar or time-of-use plans widen the advantage further. Fleet operators considering the Semi will use similar math once more megachargers come online. The data point reinforces the operating cost edge already visible in passenger vehicles and now being tested at commercial scale. On the product side, Tesla is marking a different kind of milestone at its Los Angeles diner. The Los Angeles location marks its first anniversary on July 21st with Optimus robots, roller skating staff, and a limited edition hat signed by Franz. The event highlights Tesla's continued use of the diner as a public showcase for hardware and software in a retail setting. Attendance patterns will indicate how well the concept draws repeat visitors beyond the initial launch buzz. The one-year mark also tests whether the location can sustain foot traffic once novelty fades. A Chinese EV maker conducted public road autonomous tests in central Munich. The activity shows competitors pushing regulatory boundaries in Europe, while Tesla awaits broader, unsupervised approvals. Local authorities will decide whether similar testing permits expand or tighten. The outcome affects how quickly multiple vendors can gather city street data in dense European environments. XPeng's CEO stated the company's upcoming model is close to surpassing the Model Y in key metrics. The claim positions XPeng as a direct volume competitor in the crossover segment where Tesla holds significant share. Pricing and feature details will determine whether the vehicle reaches buyers before or after any Model Y refresh. Market share shifts in China and Europe will provide the first measurable test. A home charger delivers 42 miles of range added per hour after installation at a new residence. The faster rate compared with the mobile connector reduces overnight charging time for daily driving. This highlights the practical difference between Level 2 wall connectors and portable cords for households with higher mileage needs. More installs will show how widely owners adopt the upgrade when moving into homes with dedicated circuits. A Model X completed the full length of the Americas under its own power. The trip demonstrates long-distance capability on existing supercharger and destination charging networks. It provides real-world data on vehicle reliability and charging logistics over extreme distances. Future cross-continent records will test whether network density improvements keep pace with vehicle range gains. Tesla is expanding production in Germany to meet growing demand. Berlin output is increasing this year to address European demand and targets higher utilization rates. Profitability gains reported alongside the volume lift suggest the added shifts are margin accretive. Delivery trends through the rest of 2026 will confirm whether demand absorbs the extra vehicles. The profit result on lower prior volume indicates the plant can absorb added output without immediate margin dilution. Tesla unveiled a $222 pedal-less bike for kids. The Balance Bike targets young riders with a simple, low-cost design. Availability begins through Tesla's online store and select locations. It extends the brand into early childhood products without overlapping core vehicle lines. Sales volume will reveal whether accessory categories become meaningful incremental revenue. The price point positions the item as an accessible entry to the Tesla ecosystem for families. Investor Ross Gerber called out the cabin air filtration feature as essential when smoke events increase. Owners in fire-prone regions are testing the mode's real-world effectiveness during poor air quality days. The discussion ties vehicle software features directly to changing climate patterns. Regional usage data during the current fire season will show whether the mode moves from optional to frequently activated. A $1 paper trick reportedly exposed an autopilot limitation in a controlled test. The finding highlights edge cases that vision-only setups must still resolve. Developers will need to close these gaps before unsupervised operation expands. The test adds to the list of documented scenarios that training data must cover at higher fidelity. Multiple manufacturers, including Honda, Tesla, and Volkswagen, are pulling certain electric models from the U.S. market. The moves reflect shifting demand patterns and inventory adjustments. Tesla's participation shows even the segment leader is pruning slower-selling variants. The pattern points to a broader reset in which models remain viable as incentives and buyer preferences evolve. A Pompano Beach family home was struck by a Tesla overnight. The vehicle caused significant structural damage before occupants fled. Local authorities are investigating the circumstances. The incident adds to discussions around vehicle security and post-crash behavior. Police reports will clarify whether the event involved unauthorized use or a different sequence of events. Alphabet, Tesla, and Intel face a combined $6 trillion earnings test. The three companies report within days of each other. Market focus centers on how each balances core operations with AI-related investments. Tesla's results will be parsed for any updates on compute scaling that support both FSD and Optimus roadmaps. The cluster of reports will give investors a single window into capital allocation across hardware, software, and training infrastructure. There is a challenge worth discussing. Production volume stays at zero despite ongoing factory construction at Giga Texas. The gap between prototype work and the 2027 volume target remains the central open question for the program. Earnings commentary will need to address when hundreds of units per week become realistic rather than aspirational. Investors tracking the humanoid timeline will focus on any new detail that narrows the window between current cell output and the first sustained production run. Charging infrastructure and energy storage share the same underlying constraint. How much power can move through a given connection at any moment sets the limit. A home charger adding 42 miles per hour and a Megapack feeding an entire neighborhood. Both run into wire, transformer, and rate limits that no software update can erase. Tesla's decision to open the first public Semi Megacharger therefore tests whether high-power DC can scale faster than the grid upgrades required to support it. The economics of the station will depend on utilization rates that only appear once multiple fleet customers route through the same corridor on predictable schedules. The cost comparison between Cybertruck charging and F-150 refueling makes the same point in dollars. Electricity at residential rates undercuts diesel on a per-mile basis today, yet that advantage shrinks once demand charges or limited off-peak windows enter the equation. Fleet operators watching the new California station will learn whether the infrastructure investment pays for itself through utilization or whether siting constraints keep the effective cost higher than the headline numbers suggest. The same arithmetic will apply to any future Megapack deployments that rely on the same grid connections. Germany's Berlin factory posting higher profits on lower volume shows the same principle at the manufacturing level. Fixed costs spread across fewer units usually erode margins, yet mix improvements and operating discipline produce the opposite result. The pattern suggests that future capacity additions will only lift earnings if they avoid simply replicating the current cost structure at larger scale. Any expansion that raises average selling price or reduces variable cost per unit faster than volume grows will preserve the margin lift already visible in the latest quarter. Keep an eye on the Q2 earnings call for any fresh detail on Optimus cell production cadence. And that's a wrap on today's Tesla news. TSLA closed at $380.84, down $10.22, 2.6%. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating or review. It genuinely helps other Tesla fans find us. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you tomorrow. One more thing, if you liked today's episode, our sister show, Fascinating Frontiers, is worth a spot in your feed. The most fascinating news from space and science. It's one of the NERA Network's daily briefings, all free at neranetwork.com. Prefer reading? Today's full write-up, sources, and transcript are on the episode blog at neranetwork.com. Same briefing, readable format. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.